And the other thing I didn't say is that, and see, in those days, you had you dressed 5 defensemen. The 5th defenseman played in case of an injury or if one of the 4 got a penalty. Like on Detroit, Al Arbor was there. Then he went to Toronto, picked him up, and he got tired of just being. Then we got him in St. Louis. He was our captain, but he could have. If he would have been on other teams, he could have played as a defenseman. But like in those days, they played minute and a half, 2-minute shifts. He probably averaged 40 minutes a game, I would think, because he played the power play and the penalty kill.
I think, we'll never see another player win 4 cups with 2 different teams.
I doubt it. I mean, it'd be pretty tough to win 4 with one team now. You know, the way the game is, it's not easy.
We see a lot of clips of him controlling the puck with his feet. How unusual is that?
I don't know where it came from, but any pass that was in his skates was from his skates to his stick. And, you know, you noticed it more when he was a forward because, you know, usually as a defenseman, he lugged the puck. I mean, he carried the puck. And in the era that he played in, defensemen were big, and sometimes they weren't as quick as the forwards. But they defended, and they weren't expected. I mean, if you look at all the scores in the playoffs, they're pretty close. You know, 1-0, 2-1, not many goals. You know.
What kind of points do you give Jim Lack for thinking of putting Red up against Belleville?
Well, he had him as a player. Like Belleville played 2 years. He played 4 years junior, 2 with Victoriaville. Then he went to Quebec Citadels, and then he went to play 2 years in he could have been in the NHL, but when he was 20 years old, he could have went in the NHL. He played 1 game. When he was 20, he scored a goal, and and the next year he played 3 games. He scored 5 goals. But he played for Punch Imlach, and I think in that time, Montreal won the 5 cups in a row, and then Punch had started with Toronto. They had some really good juniors coming up, but Dave Keon was a terrific centerman. He would match up against Henri Richard. They were similar type players, both small but both fast, and they didn't have anybody to play against Belleville. And then after Montreal won the 5 cups from 55 to 60, Chicago won in 61, and then Toronto won 3 in a row, 62, 63, 64, and then Red's last one was 67. That was a big upset because Montreal thought they had a pretty good team too.
Is anybody playing today in the NHL, Scotty, that reminds you of Red?
A defenseman? With so many offensive guys now, like it's hard to pick. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking. He's a left-hand shot. I mean, the guy that Ottawa had, Carlson. He likes to go with the puck, you know. But I think Red was more underrated because he also was a penalty killer. He could play defense, they were such a powerful team. I mean, you know, they had Abel, Lindsay, and Howe, and then Dutch Rival came in for about a year, and then Alex Davecchio played with that line, and Red was always on the ice. See, they only had 3 lines and 2 sets of defensemen in those days. Maybe 1 extra forward, 1 extra defenseman. You know, that's all they dressed. So Red played a lot with the production line, which made it real tough for them to stop.
Scotty, you mentioned Sergei Fedorov comparisons. Do you think Sergei's next as far as the number retiring goes? Are you surprised it hasn't happened already?
Well, I mean, you know, Detroit, everybody's different. They've taken a long time to retire Red Kelly, you know, and I mean, you could argue all the ways to say sometimes there's too many, sometimes not enough, but I'm sure he'll be considered. I mean, is the time that he played here. But it was time for Red for sure.
Don't you deserve a banner up there yourself?
Nah, they don't put banners up for that. No.
Holding a seat probably at the same time as he was an active player. Is that about the craziest second job for a player you ever heard of?
Oh yeah, I mean, he used to take a trip right to Ottawa and then have to come back. I mean, to have a player do that, that's how good he was. I mean, they needed him. They really needed Red because they won those 3 years, and I'm not sure if they finished first in those years. They weren't the best team in the regular season, but they had a lot of good veterans and really top goaltending. But he scored 20 goals, I think, 3 or 4 times at that time. And of course, as a defenseman, he was getting, one year he got 16, 5 in the playoffs one year. I mean, there's nobody has records like that.
Scotty, what's it mean to come back here for this? What's it mean to come back here? It's been a while.
Yeah, I should have been here before, but I just didn't, I was busy or something, and they were after me if I wanted to come back. So when I got the call, I was glad to come back, see the arena, and, I saw a lot on TV, but it's not the same.
Did you get to tour at all, the locker
Yeah.
room or something?
Yeah, I need to go to bed after walking all that time. I saw it all. It's nice because they had a lot of red stuff. He had a lot of displays, all his nice plates and trophies, and he won a lot of awards in Detroit.
Have you got much, have you watched much Red Wing games, and if so, I guess, what do you think of this team?
Well, I mean, there's so many teams that are in the mix. I think they're definitely better than they were. They're getting better. They got a few young players that are starting to play better. Larkins. I mean, I knew when they drafted him. I mean, I didn't know, but it takes a while sometimes, especially if the teams, when a young player comes into a team, if it has a lot of good players, it makes it easier for him. When you come into a team that's just average, it's not as easy. Everybody's expecting him to do more. But he's a legitimate top-end player now, which is, he's not that old either. But 1 year, he played youth hockey, 1 year college, and then he's in the NHL. It's a big jump. Not many guys do it.